Hello and welcome back, survivors. This is Darius Torana, and we are here on our very first 100 Days video. We are going to be playing some Medieval Dynasty during this 100 days. We're going to see how far we can get. We've got a couple goals that we're trying to do specifically, however. The basic premise of this video is going to be a competition between Ravewood and myself. So, what our goals are: we're going to be trying to complete the main quest line for Oxbow. I don't know if we will actually be able to do that due to the fact that I've never actually completed that quest line before. I don't even know how to actually proc it to move forward with it. We are going to be having a full village of 70 buildings and at least 25 villagers. We don't think that's going to be an issue. However, you never know, so that's going to be kind of where we're at there. Some basic rules for this run is you have to sleep at night. You cannot work through the night. Now, that does not mean you cannot work late into the night. Some people do pull late nights. Yes, technically some people do pull all-nighters as well, but that's not healthy. So we are going to be sleeping at nighttime. It doesn't have to be in a bed, mind you. I did find out actually I think it was in this run, I found out you can sleep at a campfire. So wilderness sleeping is fine, but you have to sleep at night. There is a slight exploit in the game where if you have multiple resource storages, you can pull from any of your resources from any of them. So people will set up those storages near big settlements. We are not allowed to do that. We have to only build within our settlement itself. So that means that it will be more difficult to be able to transport goods to sell them. As soon as possible, we are wanting to have better food than just the standard meat, roasted meat, stuff like that. We want to have things like pottage, better quality food as soon as we can. Another goal that we have is to have an automated item that is being crafted that we are going to be using to sell. That does not include food. We're not going to be automating our food production and then selling our food items. We felt like that was a little bit cheap, but things like bags, clothes, things like that, we are wanting to have to sell. Another rule that we are doing is we want to try and make our village as pleasant to live in as possible. So we're wanting to do decorations. We're wanting to make it look nice, not just as a rundown village. We want to make it a place people are actually going to want to live. With that being said, I welcome you all to my first 100 days video in 100 days in Medieval Dynasty. As I woke up, I quickly jumped to the rafters to snag the free stuff in the doc's house, and then rushed through the tutorial quest as fast as possible. My plan was to sell a lot of the starting equipment to get seeds for flax and beetroot, as well as fertilizer so that I can have a year one crop. Knowing the importance of Dynasty reputation, as well as hoping that this will push along the main quest line, I got the quest to advertise the Stone Parchment Shears game, and then I explored a little bit. During my exploration, I did find and get attacked by 2 wolves, which I did kill, and I found some abandoned houses and camps to loot. As darkness began to fall day 1, I was still unsure where I was going to settle, let alone what my plan was for the next day. I did know one thing though. I wanted to quest as much as possible, so I grabbed all the quest board quests and then headed back to the sick house where you can sleep for free. Before bed, however, I did cook up the meat that I had harvested, and I really wished fast crafting was on. After all that was done though, I went ahead and did a quick lap around the town to see if I could sell any of the meat. It was too late, so I just went ahead and went to bed for the night, ending day 1. After gathering up the materials for one of the quests, I did realize that it actually wasn't local. It was all the way up in Clonica, so I went ahead and started my long trek up north. Now this was the first of many times that I used the auto walk feature to take notes while I was walking to another location. And it actually almost cost me my first death. I walked right into a Wysant and nearly died. Watch where you're walking, friends. Now, after barely escaping with my life, I did pay a little closer attention to where I was going, and I made my way up to Clonica finally to turn in that quest. Now, with the Clonica quest finished and the pigsty fixed, I did take a lovely carriage ride back to P-Town, where I finished out the day hunting rabbits, fishing, and collecting feathers. I did complete the rest of the quests that were asked of me off the quest board before once again cooking up all of the meat that I had and going to sleep. Now, with day 3 upon us and the end of the spring fast approaching, I was running out of time for my dream of a year 1 harvest, so I decided to bend the rules a little bit. I was going to build a temporary settlement, very small, just a farm, 2 houses, a woodshed, and a storage. With that, I could recruit a villager, get my year 1 harvest done, and get some wood production going. I felt like this was still within the spirit of things because I was going to tear it all down once my actual settlement was built, so that I wasn't able to just exploit the ability to basically transfer items back and forth. But YouTube, I will let you decide. Was I incorrect in my assumption that this bending of the rules was okay, or do you think that by default on day 3 I have lost this challenge and Rave wins? I started off by plotting the fields because I needed to get that harvest going. I needed to get those seeds planted because it was really important that I get that flax and I get those beetroots, because I wasn't sure when that beetroot quest was going to come up and I wanted to be ready. And flax I know is a very important resource, so I wanted to get that going as soon as I could and get as many seeds as I could. Now, while I'm editing this, I am watching the footage, and I'm going off script right now. I'm watching myself plot these 2 houses when I still haven't planted the fields. I don't know what I was doing. I just completely lost sight of my goal. At this point, I finally remember, hey, I need to get these fields planted, so I quickly run back to town, come back with the fertilizer and all the seeds and stuff. I did have to drop a lot of stuff off in town, so you're going to notice my inventory change a lot, but that's what happened there. Now, with poo dirt in hand and seeds in bag, I'm able to go through and fertilize and then get all of this stuff plowed up and get my seeds planted. The next thing on the agenda is to start my house. So I am going to be collecting up stones, stuff like that. Now, one of the rules of this run is that we both have fast crafting and fast building off for a more realistic experience. What this means is our hammers are going to break more often, our wheels are going to break more often, and we're going to cry a lot more. Now, I definitely am used to the fast building, so that one hit go, I miss it so much throughout so many parts of this run. But lo and behold, it is a survival game in the end, and honestly, even with the fast building off, this game is just so much fun. I cannot sing this game's praises enough. There is a few things that I definitely would change about it, and I will probably eventually do a full review of this game, but that being said, let's get back to the video. Now, due to the fact that day 3 is starting to get a little bit long, I am going to go ahead and just kind of give a quick summary of what else happened during the day. I went ahead and transferred a bunch of items from the chest / the ground in town over to my chest in my house. That way, I'm not sure if the items would disappear in the next year, but if they did, I didn't want that to happen. I then built the other house that I wanted to build in my temporary settlement, and I did a little bit of cooking and selling, where I almost ran out of time, so I went ahead and just slept in town. Start of day 4, the first thing I did was go out and check on my crops. I was disappointed that the beetroot wasn't ready yet. I forgot beetroot is a 2-season crop, however the flax was ready. And out of the 10 flax I planted, I got 56 flax, and I made 3 stone sickles to be able to harvest those. I will say stone sickles are so inefficient, so once you can, you need to upgrade to something a little bit better. Next on my list was to do some fishing. As per usual, especially towards the beginning of the game, you're going to be seeing me fish a lot, just because roasted fish is a very good source of early game money. Now, while I was sitting and waiting for the fish to roast up, I did think about plans that I was wanting to make. I put them in the notes that they're plans to do things, and I don't remember if I actually ended up doing them on this day or not. I don't think I ended up doing them on this day, but I made plans to plant cabbage, plans to finish the second house, and plans to build the resource storage. Now, from the fish points themselves, I did get 4 pike from the first one, 2 from the second, 3 from the third, and 5 from the fourth. So I was able to get quite a few fish, and I cooked them up and sold them. Now, with that money, I ended up buying a simple large backpack and a large pouch to be able to get my inventory space a little bit higher, because especially base early game, you can carry very little before you start being overweighted. This got my weight up to, I think it was like 65. After selling the meat, I did end up going to the job board to try and get my reputation up some more, so I figured I would grab a job real quick, go do it, and use that to finish out my day. So I grabbed the job, Huff Huff Blow, which unfortunately for me is the one that is out of town. So instead of running all the way up there and trying to get all the way back before evening, I decided to just work on my temporary settlement some more. I ended up starting to work on the resource storage first. And I did that till the end of the day. I just chopped trees, ran around and did my resource storage, worked on that for basically the rest of the evening, knowing that I needed to get that done. I did not end up getting it finished on this evening, though. I actually do end up having to work on it some more on day 5. So I start out day 5 by finishing up my second house and building the foundation and finishing up the woodshed so that I can get somebody hired on to go and start collecting wood and things for me, so that I don't have to do that and I can kind of take a break while I go and do some quests. I head towards the town, but not all the way into Piastovia. I actually just head over to the campfire where you can hire people, and I find Dalemere, who I think would make a really good lumberjack. So I get him hired on, and I set him to collecting 40% logs and 60% sticks, as I am probably still going to be using wattle for a while, at least until I start building my actual settlement. After I get that all settled, I do collect up the resources needed for the quest, and I head up to Clonica to get that quest finished. Nothing interesting happened really on the way up. I found some more fish. I found some places to loot, so there wasn't really anything super interesting that happened on the way there. However, on the way back, like I had said earlier, I do run into some Wysons again, and once again almost die. But they did run me straight into a chest, which I was able to loot. So, another thing that did happen in Clonica that I did forget to mention is I did take another quest where it's called I'm an NPC or something like that. Basically, a guy got hit in the head, and now he's having delusions that he is breaking the fourth wall. He's in a video game. It's all very meta, and I did enjoy the quest quite a bit. I didn't actually do it yet, but basically he asked me for a bronze sickle or to hunt a deer. Beyond that, though, not much happens the rest of the day. I just spend most of the day exploring and trying to find a place for my permanent settlement. I mark an area for further investigation, but with it getting so dark, I decide to make a fire so that I can go to sleep for the night. Now, day 6, I did head back to Piastovia. I needed to purchase some fertilizer and some cabbage seeds so that I could get a cabbage harvest going. I did end up getting the 10 fertilizer, getting the 10 seeds, and getting them planted. And then I went off to go explore some more, basically for that whole day. Now, the highlights of the day, I did find a really weird shrine. I found a mine, and I did end up finally having my first death due to a wolf. However, I did go back and kill that wolf that killed me, got my stuff back, and then I went off to near Astoya to see if I could potentially find a place down there to build my settlement. And a bear that I don't think is supposed to be there was there, and that thing killed me. And with that being there, I did throw a spear at it, and there's no way I can get that spear back if that bear is supposed to be there. I'll have to go back at some point later on, maybe to get it, but honestly I think that spear is just a goner at this point. But with my second death, I ended day 6 and the summer. So the first day of autumn and the 7th day of this challenge, I started off by going and harvesting my beetroot and my cabbage. So the beetroot I had planted 20 of, and I ended up getting 44 seeds back and 160 beetroots. For the cabbage, I had planted 10, and I got 21 seeds and 72 cabbage. So honestly, if you really start off and get really good in farming, you can make a decent chunk of money just selling extra seeds and stuff like that. I feel like that actually would be a pretty cool idea for a village, as a farming village, that you would do seeds and such. So that's just an idea for people who are wanting to make some easy money. It's not a lot per seed, but I mean, I over doubled my seeds, so it's pretty neat. After my harvest was done, I really wanted to get doubling down on my looking for where my village is going to actually be. I needed to get my settlement established. I needed to get it going. So I spent the rest of the day just exploring. However, I did end up dying. But on the bright side, I also potentially found where I want my village to be. I ended day 7 setting up a camp in the area that I was thinking about settling in. So day 8 started with me exploring the surrounding area more. I wanted to be able to set up a fishing village. That's the vibe I wanted to give. So I wanted to explore the water around. There was a little fishing hut nearby that I could loot to get some extra stuff to start off with. I also found in the area, I found a guy who had randomly died. He had some stuff on him. And I also found a wood cutting camp. So it had some axes, logs, things like that that could help out. After exploring the area more, I decided this was going to be the spot. I really liked the look and the vibe of this area, so I went ahead and started building my first house. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to finish the house on this day, so I went ahead and set up a little campfire as well, so that I could continue working on it on the last day of autumn and hopefully be able to get it finished and get things moved over by winter. Now, the last day of autumn, honestly, I just spent almost the entire day just building. There really wasn't much else to do. I was trying to get a house built, secondary house built, and the resource storage built. I needed those all done so that I could start building and start bringing over my other villager and get things actually going in my settlement. I have officially decided this is going to be where I live, and I'm very excited about the opportunities that the future affords us. Now, as day 9 comes to a close, I don't actually set my spawn point yet. I want to actually take this time to be able to teleport back to the other area so that I can tear it down and bring everything over with me to the new settlement. I wanted to make sure that I left nothing over there so that I wasn't, cheating in the challenge. So the start of day 10, we appeared back in our temporary settlement because I hadn't set up that spawn point yet. So I spent the first part of the morning just tearing down the old settlement. After I tore down the old settlement, I went back to where we are going to have the new settlement, and I got things kind of started there. I started kind of planning some temporary buildings because, again, I'm not 100% sure exactly how I want my settlement to be built yet, so it's going to be a lot of building, tearing down, building. After finishing up doing my temporary building planning, I went ahead and started just mining so I could get a lot of rocks. I started off outside mining the rocks outside. However, I realized you really don't get a lot of rocks from mining those rocks. Those are more for the chance of getting limestone. So I went inside the mine that's near my area and just started mining out the copper. I tried to mostly do copper since that's what I'm going to be working with in the beginning, but I did get some other resources as well. Finishing out the day, I did go ahead and start building each of those buildings that I had kind of planned out. I wanted to get them started, and I kind of worked into the night a little bit just because I had the time. Starting off with day 11, we did finish up all of those buildings. It took me roughly half the day to do so. You guys have seen enough of me building that I didn't feel like showing it though. The other thing that I did that day though is I realized that I was going to need a lot of axes for my lumberjacks, so I decided to just make as many as I could. To do that, I knew I was going to need a couple of things. I was going to need a lot of sticks, and I was going to need a lot of stone, because axes require 2 stone or 2 or 5 stone per axe and 10 sticks per axe. So I knew I was going to need a lot of both. So I spent the rest of the day just in the mine and chopping trees to try to get as many sticks and stones as I could. Anytime my inventory got kind of full, I went ahead and just crafted a bunch of axes because they're lighter than the raw materials, and that is how I spent the rest of the day. Once nighttime arrived, I did start working on a couple other buildings for my village just so that I could continue the forward motion of my village, and I got ready for day 3 of winter. Day 12, the last day of the first year. I feel very far behind, honestly. I'm a little disappointed that my village isn't more set up than it is. I initially was going to just settle where I had always been settling, but I really wanted to try something different, and it just really set me behind. However, now that we are on day 12, I am finally getting to finish up the kitchen, which is a key point of one of the most important aspects of this challenge. Getting food that is better than just roasted meats or dried meats. That's one of the key point challenges of this whole run. Now, after doing some exploring and some hunting around my area, I headed over to Clonica because there is the I'm an NPC quest that I need to finish up. The gentleman there knows that he is in a game after being hit in the head, and I go ahead and get that finished up and him spoken with. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. Apparently his bump in the head is all fixed and better now. After I finish out that, I do go ahead and speak with the people over in the campsites, looking at their stats so that I can find somebody. I do hire a person for the workshop, and the first person that I decide to hire, other than my woodworker, I guess, that is going to be the first official new villager into my settlement is Milena. Now, the rest of the day I basically spend running around hunting. I'm wanting to get as much meat and hide and fur as I can, so I'm running around hunting, and of course, I end the day out getting killed by a wolf. As I wander around the village before heading to bed, I think about how behind I do feel, how much I'm kind of disappointed in my start here. I actually did consider restarting and just immediately coming here, because it did feel like a little bit of a cheapo getting that temporary settlement established before this one. However, I did decide in the end to just keep doing this run, keep going, and see where it can take me. Honestly, in the end, even though I do feel very behind, this settlement is feeling like home. Now, for my second spring, I did need to pay taxes. However, before I did that, I did go out and harvest all the flax, got that taken into the barn and made into flax stock. After that, I did head into Piastovia, where I went ahead and paid my taxes. I also knew I wanted to purchase fertilizer. To do that, I would need some more money. So I went ahead and bought all of the pike and cooked it and resold it. I then bought manure, seeds, and fertilizer. The manure I purchased just because it's a cheaper form so that you can make more fertilizer. I then went ahead and checked out the quests there. Now, for day 14 and day 15, unfortunately, I forgot to hit record for those days. So, just as a quick recap of what happened during those days, I hired some people, so I had to rush back home to build them a house. I then finished a new, bigger house, assigned new workers to my old house, and assigned them to the hunting lodge. I crafted up the fertilizer. I laid temporary crop plots for onions, carrots, poppy, beetroot, cabbage, some more flax. I didn't put out any oat, but I did put down some wheat. And then day 15, I went ahead and finished up those plots. There was a random bear near my house. I was really worried about it, honestly, so I just kind of avoided that area. I knew it shouldn't have been there, which means it probably was signifying an event, so I probably should have gone up to check it out. I then flirted after doing my work with some of the people in town, and I found out that Tolaswala ends up having a sense of humor, so she's the one I kind of focus on for my romance. But that brings it to the end of spring 2 and the beginning of our new year. Everything seems to be going pretty well. Our village is slowly growing, and I'm starting to get romances started. So starting off on day 16, I went ahead and harvested up the onions, cabbage, and flax, and I thrashed the flax. I did end up crafting an assortment of different foods, and then I started building a new house. Between collecting the resources for the house and actually building it, the house took the rest of the day to build, other than just a few minutes here and there to do a little bit of light flirting with some of the other villagers. Day 17 started with me heading over to have a quick word with the only girl in town who has a sense of humor, Toslala. I honestly can't pronounce that name to save my life. It's Toslawa. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce her name. I am going to be going to town today to buy some fertilizer, animal feed, 2 new spears, as well as sell all my junk. When I get to town, the first thing I do is I go up and check the quest board before heading to the market. I say, hey, why not accept one or two of these quests, and I head out to start working on them. After gathering the required resources, I do head over to Derwin and talk with him to get the quest finished up that I had accepted. After which I finally head to the marketplace to go and do the buying and selling of things that I was originally coming to town for. List of things that I got 30 fertilizer, 2 bronze spears, 1 bronze scythe, and 32 animal feed. I did hire a cook and an herbalist, however I do end up swapping a lot of stuff around later, so they don't stay in those jobs. After which I do take a carriage to Skauki. I go and do some questing there, specifically to start the Stone Parchment Shears quest line that I had accepted. I also accept another quest from the chicken boy there, and I take a carriage back to Piastovia, where I grab the parchment from the board, and then take a carriage to Astoya, where a bunch of people were glitched in the water, including both of the people that I needed quests from. I also took a quest about littering and nowhere to find a young boy. I'll have to come back to that though, as I need to get back to Piastovia and get some sleep. Starting off day 18, we finish up the Stone Parchment Shears questline. I do head home after that to build an excavation shed and a pigsty, however for some reason I am lacking in a lot of sticks. So I decide I'm going to take a break. As I head out, I'm walking around in a more northern area of my village, and I see a very interesting outpost, so I decide to go and check it out. By now I've run into a lot of different abandoned buildings and abandoned camps, and very few actually have enemies, so I did not think anything of this when I stumbled into it. I figured it would just have a little bit of loot for me. As you can see, I was wrong. There was at least 3 bandits here. I started trying to fight them with my bow, realized that I'm not skilled enough with a bow, so I started trying to swap to my spear. Started panicking a little bit, so I hit some wrong buttons. It was a mess of a fight. In the end, though, I was able to get away far enough that they turned around, and I was able to kind of rally up, get one of them killed, pull out my bow, shoot another one of them. I was able to get them down, and then I went ahead and looted the place. Now, after looting, I did realize that it was starting to get kind of late, and it was a decent walk back to my village, so I did decide to head on back. While there, I finished up the projects that I had started on, that I had been taking a break from, to get that all finished out for the end of summer. Now, once again, I kind of oopsed. I accidentally forgot to hit record on day 20 and 21, so I've only got the footage for day 19. On day 19, I was very excited, though. I was very, very stoked to be able to use my new scythe, which I had not yet been able to use. So I went out to do some harvesting with that scythe and was not disappointed. Now, after going and doing some basic resource gathering like logs and such, I did plot some new roads and some new houses and workstations. I went ahead and hunted the wolves in the area to get some basic safety, and then I mined up some stone and some ore. I laid foundations for more permanent houses, and I got my 3rd woodshed built. I did tear down the first woodshed to move it to a new area where it would be more permanent as well. Now, as for day 20, I just spent the day basically gathering resources and finishing a house. My plan is to actually replace all of the houses by next year and have 3 extra houses. I then just flirted and replaced some tools, and I tore down some of the old temporary buildings that I had. Now, like I said, for day 21, I also don't have any footage, so it's just going to be using footage from day 19 again. I did decide to do a planting day. I was going to do rye and wheat, but due to the fact that rye is only able to be planted during autumn, I did decide to just do the rye. I did end up getting married, and we decided to have a kid. I did complete an extra house, and with my marriage, I have space for 3 more villagers. Now, one of the goals for this playthrough is to have some basic, at least, decorations, more like medium-ish decorations. So I wanted things to start looking nice. One of the most basic things you can do to make things look nice is to start adding fences. So I started building some fences around the homes. I also built a new workshop, and I got a new house plotted and almost finished. I did go ahead and with my wife, we decided to have a kid, so that night we went ahead and started on that. But with that, we are ending our second autumn, so we will be coming back in the winter. Now, at the start of day 22, I did kind of lose sight of some stuff. I went to try to finish building a house, realized I didn't have what I needed, so I ran off and just started kind of piddling around town, kind of wasting time like I don't have, and then realized I needed to build some axes so I could go and get the resources needed to finish the house. Finally, I did go finish the house. I decide I'm ready to head into town though, so I start to head to town, then realize, oh wait, no, I need to build a pigsty, completely forgetting that I had already built one. So I start building another pigsty. I go out to start collecting some resources for finishing up the pigsty, get sidetracked again, realizing that my people are out of firewood. So then I start making firewood. It was just a big ADHD moment for me. I just kept changing my task and forgetting what I was going to do. Finally, I get back to work on the pigsty. I get it finished and ready to go, and then I finally decide, hey, maybe it is in fact time for me to go into town. Oh, but wait, I don't have anything to sell in town, so I decide, hey, I'm going to craft some arrows and then take any of my extra tools into town to sell. My plan is to kind of fish along the way and sell the tools and the fish as I get into town. The wolves in the area I was going to kill to have free roaming of the forest for the rest of the season. However, the wolves have actually left the area, which is kind of a neat but also irritating thing that can happen, where if you encroach too far into an animal's territory, that animal will leave that territory and it'll actually disappear from the map. Now, day 23, I started off by taking a quest from the tavern owner in Piastovia, and I actually went ahead and sold off all my stuff that I had and sold off the roasted fish meat that I had fished up the day before. But I also wanted to try out something different. I decided to go up to Ponzi Scheme and ask him for all of his pike, get that all bought, and to cook it up to see how much of an actual profit I will make. I have not run the numbers before now, but I knew it did give me more than I spent. So what I did is I ended up buying 20 of his fish for 1,008 gold, and then I actually sold it all cooked for 1,596 gold. I then got back to fishing to get some more money done. I got another 12 pike roasted up to sell before moving on, where I took a carriage to Skauki. I went ahead and did the Chicken Boy quest there, and I got a new emoji to act like a chicken from that kid. I then purchased some animal feed from the villager who has it there in Skauki. I then took a carriage to Astoya, where I talked with a child there and promised them a bear figurine for the litter quest there. I then took a carriage up to Clonica to get the pigs, and then I got some notifications that my people were running out of water, so I had to run home to refill that. However, before I left Clonica, I did do a couple more things. I went ahead and hired 3 people from Clonica, and there was a quest to take a knife back down to Skauki to have it sharpened. The knife is called Breathtaker. Now, After I got all the waters refilled back at my house, I did go ahead and head off, even though it was pretty late. I did want to head back to the bandit camp because I didn't check it thoroughly enough. I did find another 300 gold and an iron crossbow before I headed back home and went to bed for the night. Day 24, I decide I'm going to be heading back to Piastovia, back into town one more time because I do have a little bit more fish to sell. I also want to sell that iron crossbow and iron dagger that I found, and I need to buy the figurine for that kid that I promised over in Astoya. Now, before I leave Piastovia, I do decide to get most of the mug quest done, the Muggers quest, so that I can get it out of the way. I do find out, however, that the mugs do show up when you go into investigation mode, so it becomes a much easier quest than what I had hoped it would be. I was very happy about that. I do, at this point, ride to Scouty, and I pay some dude's debt to have his knife sharpened, the guy who had Breathtaker. I'm like, oh, I'll just have him pay me back. Little do I know. After that, I do take a ride up to Astoya. I hand off the bear to the kid, and the kid tells me he doesn't know anything about what's going on, so then I head over to investigate, find out that I need to put 30 30 roach into a basket, which is pretty irritating, and there's absolutely no way I am going to fish 30 roach, so I just go and purchase the roach from the gentleman that does fish, and he also has a bunch of pike to sell, so I go ahead and grab that, roast it up, and resell it to him. However, at that point it is pretty late, so I go ahead and end day 24 and the last day of winter after selling that pike. Day 25 starts off with me asking my wife to pay the taxes. I really didn't want to have to travel all the way down to Piastovia just to do that, so I went ahead and just asked her to do so. It's kind of a theme, this run through. Honestly, most of the time when I'm playing, I ask her to go pay the taxes. The other thing I do here in town is I ask Milena what I can do to help her and get a quest from her. Finally, basically the rest of the day, I work on new areas for the excavation shed, hunting lodge, and the herbalist hut, as well as a smithy, and I just worked on those buildings all day long. It wasn't a very exciting day, but it was a productive one. Day 26, I spent the day finishing up the buildings that I had started the day before. After those were done, I went ahead and got smelting some ores. I wanted to get as many ore as I could smelted up so that I could start making some copper tools. In the end, I ended up making 5 copper axes, 2 copper hoes, and 2 copper hammers. I was going to make 2 copper pickaxes, but I did not realize you can't make copper pickaxes. I also did not know this, but that is a realistic thing. Copper is one of the metals that you can actually cold forge, which means that you can't use it to do really heavy stuff because it's too soft of a metal. The rest of the day was spent doing some farming. I wanted to get at least some of everything down, so I got about 10 beetroot planted, 20 flax planted, 10 onions planted. I didn't do any cabbage because you can do cabbage during the summer. I planted 10 wheat, and I planted 10 poppy. Now, farming took me most of the day, so the only thing left that I really could do is I did some cooking so that I would have food for the next day. Now, I had 2 goals for day 27. I wanted to make money and finish quests. Questing is unfortunately not a very good source of money, so those are 2 separate things. I was going to go fishing, but unfortunately it started raining, so I went ahead and started hunting moose. You get a lot of meat from moose, and while regular meat is not as valuable as fish meat, still has a good cost. I went to go give the gentleman his dagger back after getting it sharpened in Skauki, and he didn't want to pay me back for the debt that I paid off for him, so I told him to screw off and kept his knife. I went ahead after that and took a carriage down to Piastovia. I wanted to finish up the Mug Muggers quest since one of those required me to deliver the mug the next day, so I went ahead and did that. I then bought up Ponzi Scheme's fish and cooked and sold that back to him, and then I also cooked up the 70 meat and made 35 bags so that I could sell those as well, and got that done. After that, I headed down to Astoya, again taking a carriage down there to save time. I went ahead and checked on the basket, realizing that I needed perch this time. So I went over. I, again, was not going to fish up that many perch for this quest, so I went ahead and purchased them from the fishmonger to put them in there, and then I also went ahead and purchased all of his pike and cooked them up and sold them back to him. Realizing I probably wouldn't be able to get back to my house before the end of the season, and honestly probably wouldn't even be able to get to the surgeon's house, I decided to just take a nap at a campfire here, and I missed the birth of my child. However, I do technically get teleported back at the beginning of the season, so I was totally there. And I picked the name Amelia, and we finish up the season ready for the next one. Day 28 started out with me harvesting flax. That's going to be a pretty normal summer start due to the fact that I don't really trust other people to handle my flax harvests. I need it to get done, and as you'll see later on in the run, sometimes my flax isn't prioritized, and it really needs to be. I'm hoping I can figure out at some point how to prioritize different tasks so that the flax can get done first. After doing my flax harvest and getting all of that taken care of, the next thing that I did was I went ahead and started heading over to Clonica. I wanted to get some questing done as well as getting some money made, so I gathered up all of my extra stuff to sell, and on my way over to Clonica I did some fishing. Once I arrived in Clonica, I decided to go ahead and get some of the selling done, as well as getting the questing that I was heading over there for. There's a quest called I Want to Be an Archer, and it's a young girl who wants to be able to protect her beehives from bears, and so I went ahead and got that finished. The final part of that quest requires you to kill a bear, which is not the easiest thing to do. However, in the end, I was able to finally put the thing down. The next step in today's journey was to take a carriage over to Astoya, where I needed to put pike in the basket for the Don't Panic quest. At this point, I was getting pretty frustrated with this quest because I knew where it was going. Like, they wanted roach, they wanted perch, now they're going to want pike, but they wanted a lot of pike, and that's a lot of money. So I was starting to get frustrated with this quest. I'm not a big fan of it. After putting the fish in the basket, I went ahead and went back to Piastovia, talked with Ponzi Scheme, took his quest, bought his fish, cooked and resold it, and then there wasn't a ton of time left in the day, so I just went ahead, went out to the little stream, started fishing for the pike out there, and got that cooked up. I then stayed in Piastovia in the surgeon's house for the evening. Now, I forgot to record on day 29, or I somehow lost the footage. I went ahead and I sold the fish that I had for that, and then I headed home to get the beetroot for old Ponzi Boy. I made a few new stone knives, I built a farm shed, built a well, built a chicken coop, so it was a very, very productive day. Finally, I went ahead and built a sewing hut and ended the day making 76 linen thread, 20 linen fabric, and 20 bags. Day 30, again, I don't have footage for. It's kind of frustrating, but there were times I think I hit record and I didn't. Heading back to town to sell the bags and give the beetroot to old Ponzi Boy. I did hire a new villager for the farm. This is going to be my first farming villager. I went ahead and hunted some moose and some deer on the way home and collected manure, and I made a resource storage 2. I made 17 soups, and then I went to bed for the last bit of summer. Start of the season, despite the fact that I had just hired a farmer, I went ahead and did the harvest myself. I then threshed and created a bunch of poppy seeds. I then went over to my smithy and crafted 25 copper ingots, and from that crafted 6 copper axes. I then kind of sat around and I made some plans. I needed more villagers, which means I need more houses. So that's what I decided to get to work on. I went ahead and started building 2 more houses for my village, and the problem is like I'm not 100% sure where everything is going to be. So some of these I'm kind of thinking, oh, I'll put them here temporarily, and then others I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is for sure good. That being said, I got the first house done, got to work on the second. It's roughly mid-ish day, so I'm starting to run out of daylight, and I've got other stuff I do want to get done, so I quickly kind of get this done as soon as I can. Now, I am going to be heading into town the next day, is my plan, so I decided to start crafting some more bags to sell in town, and just kind of prepping for my trip tomorrow. Beyond that, I just end the day crafting and getting ready. Day 32 begins with me starting off heading into town. I do hunt a couple moose on the way, and I get some fishing done, but the really only big notable thing is I'm heading through the swamp and I see this gentleman that is just a delight to speak with. In the swamp. He's a pretty chill dude, but yeah, he's in the swamp, so if you want to meet him, he's always there. Once I get into town, however, I do hire somebody to start making some stone tools for me. It doesn't end up going super well, so I end up having to rearrange stuff, but that's for a later time. I did want to be able to sell the leather I got from the moose, so I went ahead and just crafted simple bags from the leather, and then I went ahead and sold a lot of my goods. And technically this happened before I sold goods, but I also did complete the medieval marketing quest line with Ponzi scheme, so that's done as well. After I got done selling stuff, though, I went ahead and took a carriage to Astoya to continue the Don't Panic quest. All I got was a Hitchhiker's Guide reference out of the Don't Panic quest. Honestly, it was kind of a waste of time. I don't know if it's required to advance the storyline, but man, if it's not, skip that quest. That's like the worst quest ever. Now, I will say, despite how late it was, I did go to Clonica instead of going back to Piastovia to sleep. There was 2 quests that were in Clonica. One of them was like, the dude was like, oh hey, you know, you've helped us so much, I need to honor you. So I was like, yeah, let's do that right away. What it ended up being was a giant fetch quest that honestly was kind of a pain, especially in the dark, so I decided to go ahead and just sleep in the wilderness. So I collected up some sticks to get my fire started and went to sleep for the night. Day 33, I went and talked with the kid. I should have just done that the night before because I ended up having to follow him home, and because of how the quest played out, we were both super drunk, so it was a pain in the butt to follow him home, and I thought that was the end of it, but this actually ended up turning into one of the longest quest lines of this game. After I got that done, I went ahead and worked on another quest that was in town, and originally the person said to find a little piggy. It ended up being her child. If I had known it was her child, I would have done it the night before. So people need to use wording correctly. But obviously, the child wasn't in any danger, and they were upset because they lost their toy. So I found all the pieces, and then they were upset because now that I found all the pieces and put them back together, they won't get a new toy. Kids are just brats in this game. After heading back and speaking with the kid's mother, I went back home to work on my village. I did hunt some boar on the way home and crafted a bunch of firewood and planks. I made a food area near the kitchen, and then I decorated near the storage. Alright, so day 34 started and I wanted to get a mount. So I decided to start trying to figure out where I wanted the donkey hut. At first I was going to put it around where the old barn was. However, I kind of decided against that and decided to put it closer to the start of town, since a lot of villages and stuff have the stables like near where the town begins. After finally deciding on its placement, I did need to just get it built, which was a pretty simple task. I just needed to make some planks in the middle of it. So we got that done and got our donkey hut built. At this point, I didn't have a person in charge of the pigs yet, so I went ahead and started clearing out the pig manure and got some fertilizer made. After that, I mostly just kind of did some work around the village. I mined stone, made shovels, made a bunch of stone pickaxes, filled up water, made food, and made firewood. Day 35 started off with me making firewood. I originally was just going to go with what the internet has said and just use logs. However, they burn through my logs so quickly. So I decided I would start manually making firewood and I would get somebody to do this later. But I ended up making 62 logs into firewood. The other thing is day 33 I was freezing. Like, I almost died day 33. So I either need to make new clothes or buy them. And at the moment, I don't have the production experience to make the clothes I needed. So I ended up making 13 bags and went to Piestovia to sell said bags as well as purchase new clothes. Now, I don't have it in my notes, which is why I almost skipped right past it, but I did hire somebody as I was going into Piestovia, so that is also important. I spoke with Derwin to get this quest. So I found out later, and just FYI guys, so you guys know for future playthroughs, this quest is a long one, so you are going to want to get it started and basically work on it until it tells you to wait again. It's a very long quest. Similar to that is the one in Clonica that I have been working on, where I got drunk with that kid. Come to find out, that quest is extremely long and also extremely important to the storyline. So pay attention to that quest line because it will come up later. I also spoke with this gentleman, Swir. He is a lot less important. However, his quest is delightfully funny because this dude is just nuts. He is like, oh my god, the world's ending. We gotta help me. So yeah, we work on that one as well. Now, one of the big things that happened here is I also accepted 3 of the quest board quests. One of which was to hunt wolves, which I've gotten pretty proficient at. Not that you would notice from this attempt, as I died. Now, despite it being so late, I did decide to still travel over to Clonica, because it's not very far from my village on foot. The reason I did that is because there is a quest board quest in there, as well as the main quest to talk with Yaropelk, so I went ahead and did that. With it being so late though, I did not trust myself to be able to get back to my village in time for morning, so I went ahead and took a carriage to Piestovia and went to the surgeon's house to sleep, and I figured I would just hunt wolves in the morning to get that done. I forgot to start recording day 36 right away, so I turned in the log quest, finished hunting the wolves, and turned that quest into Derwin. And then I took a carriage over to Skauki to purchase my donkeys, because I really wanted to get my donkeys purchased. I forgot to mention that when I bought my clothes and stuff, I also purchased a saddle for said donkeys. So I headed over to Skauki, and while there, I decided to start this quest with a gentleman who was really upset about his neighbor copying him. So I was like, oh, this should be a quick and easy quest. Yeah. What preceded was one of the most annoying quests I think I've done in my entire life, where I had to run back and forth between the two houses trying to figure out what was different, what was the same between the two houses, and come to find out there is an actual glitch in the quest where one of the items is in a different place, but you have to say it's in the same place. It's a pain in the butt. It's super stupid. I hate that quest. Now that is my least favorite quest. It used to be the Mug Muggers quest, but I figured out a trick to that one, and now this one is my least favorite. I almost forgot to buy the donkeys. It was so annoying. After that super annoying quest, I headed back to Piastovia, and honestly, I spent almost the entire day working on that other quest. It was so frustrating. I don't know if you guys can feel my frustration. But I went ahead and talked with Swir back in Piastovia, talked to the Quartermaster's apprentice after working on all of his assignments. That dude is a piece of work too. However, that's a story for another day. Day 37 started with me asking my wife to pay my taxes for me because I'm lazy, even though I'm literally about to head into Piastovia. Literally, that's where I was going, and I asked her to take them instead. I also took a quest for one of my villagers to get some cherry wine because he wanted to prove to his friend that cherry wine is superior to plum wine. After that, I headed out to Piastovia on my donkey on its first ride. I was super excited about it, and it went really well. It was about when I got to Piastovia that I realized I just asked my wife to pay my taxes when I was heading there myself. So for the Quartermaster's quest, I needed to help Lubos with his stuff. He needed 20 onions and 10 hammers, so I went ahead and brought those to him from my village, at which point he didn't want to go report everything to Derwin, so I had to do that for him too. Love this guy. So headed off to Derwin to report everything, and I thought that was going to be the end of that quest, but it then told me to wait. At that point, I went to go gather up some of the stuff for Swir's quest. I needed the 2 fish, 3 rye, and a stone, so I went and started fishing for the perch. After which, I spoke with Swir to get the information that I needed to head to the swamp to get that finished there. Long story short, did the ritual, headed back to Piastovia, got his quest done. After that, I bought all of Ponzi Scheme's fish and roasted it up to sell it back to him. At this point, you will have noticed that I've been away from home for a while. I haven't really done much building other than that donkey shed. The reason for this is because I'm actually trying to let them build up resources so I can build faster and build better later. I did go ahead and finish up the day fishing, and I finally unlocked the fishing hut. This is kind of a key building for my village due to the fact that I'm wanting to make it a fishing village. Day 38 started with me traveling to Klonika for the She-Wolf quest to do the Yaropelk stuff. Now, I will say, I keep thinking this quest is done, and then it's not. So, I'm back doing some more stuff for it. I had to go and kill some bandits and find an axe for him, and so that is what happened there. I then basically followed him around for a while, going to some different locations, and we ended up at a cave. Now, I know I've said I've gotten so much better at fighting wolves, but once again, I proved that that is entirely not true. As I get ambushed in this cave by some wolves, I literally am told that, oh my god, there's wolves, you have to fight them. And somehow I'm still doing terrible. I finally end up injuring the wolves enough that they run out of the cave, but I have to kill them, and so I have to go find them and literally hunt these things down. They ended up on the top of a hill, so I headed out that way. After finally killing the wolves, I'm asked to inspect some rocks and find some remains under there, and with that, the She-Wolf quest is now on a wait for a while. So I took a quest for Milobar, but it's getting dark and I want to actually be home in time for me to sleep, so I head back to my village. On the way out of town, I did find both the things I need for Milobar, but I did not go back to give it to him. I did almost forget to turn in the cherry wine quest, so I went ahead and did that and got a fun little interaction with one of my villagers, with him basically grilling me about what my favorite type of wine is. And when I didn't agree with him that it was cherry wine, despite the fact that it is totally cherry wine, that is the best of the wines. I just wanted to see what his reaction would be if I didn't pick plum or cherry, and it was fun. But with that done and darkness coming, I decided to go ahead and just end the day and go back home. Day 39, the whole goal of today is to get the whistleblower perk. I need one level in farming, and so I start getting a bunch of farming stuff together to get it done. I planted a bunch of flax, made another large field for the other seeds. I made fertilizer. After planting the other field, I got the levels I needed. After doing all of that, I went ahead and took inventory of all the tools I had, decided I had plenty, so I decided I really wanted to get better at archery. So I went ahead and started crafting up the things necessary for me to make copper arrows. I ended up crafting up 13 copper bars, moved all the copper bars to the forge area, and ended up crafting 80 copper arrows to be able to practice my archery with. Between the large amount of farming and all of these arrows, that did take the entire day, so that is all I got done on the day 39 and the last day of spring. Day 40 started out with me starting to reassign people to different jobs. I wanted to get things better suited to my village. Beyond that, because the time does not actually go forward when you're the only one on the map and there is a menu going, so it didn't take any time for me to actually do that. So beyond that, all that I did was I built 3 houses, and that took literally all day long. Start of day 41, I just finished up those houses, and then I began working on the fishing hut because I'm wanting to do a fishing village aesthetic. Beyond that, all I did is work on some fences, so again, pretty boring day. Starting off day 42, I really wanted to spruce up the sitting area a little bit, so I went ahead and got that taken care of. I put up some cool log fences and got that all done. After that, I went ahead and headed over to Clonica to get some of the questing done over there. I knew that there was going to be quite a bit that I needed to get done for quests, so I decided to focus basically the rest of the day working on quests in both Clonica and Piastovia. The rest of my day is spent working on the apprentice mission for Derwin. It is honestly just one of the most mind-boggling missions in this game, I feel like. Just how much Derwin sticks his neck out for this stupid kid. I would just play through it. It's crazy. Almost the entirety of fall year 4 was spent just making my new farm. I did do some firewood production, and I did have a donkey born, which was very exciting. However, all I did really the entirety of fall is I built a new barn, built a new farm shed, built a new pigsty, built a farmhouse, and built a new resource storage near the farm, and just cleared tons of trees and land for my farmlands. After changing into my winter clothes, I went ahead and went to the fishery and decided to start trying to spruce things up over there. I ended up just placing down a fish trap for now, as I didn't have all of the resources required to start placing down like decorations and such. However, that's going to be a big part of what I want to do soon. I also want to probably at some point get a second one of these or try to get that upgraded, but for now we just have our new fish trap. I basically spent the rest of the day grubbing up the flax field. Due to the fact that it's going to take 100 spaces up, it's a long and arduous job. I did also make a couple of new copper axes so that I could cut down some more trees around the area, and I wanted to finish plotting the rest of the farm out. After cutting down a lot more trees and plotting out a lot more of the farm, I went ahead and started just crafting some wooden hoes. I think I got about 10 of them, or no, I made 20 of them, and after that just decided to head to bed. Day 47, I started by heading into Piastovia and getting some animal feed and oat grain. I figured while I'm there I may as well do some questing. I had the 2 quests, one to speak with Lobos and go with him out to meet with some suppliers, as well as the stone collection quest where you collect 30 stones for a gentleman. After collecting the stones and handing them in to that gentleman, I went ahead and purchased what I needed from Piastovia and headed over to go and speak with Lubos. Lubos feigned being sick and told me to go and complete the drop hit myself, so I headed off to go do that. Surprise, surprise, it was bandits! So I went ahead and started fighting them off. It definitely wasn't an easy fight, but I was able to handle it. After finding the supplies missing, I went back to speak with Derwin, told him about what happened, and he all but blamed me for the bandit robbery, then asked me to inform the blacksmith. Blacksmith said that he already found the goods. So I went ahead and finished up that quest and spoke with the surgeon and slept at his house. I decided to spend day 48 in Clonica. I finished up the quest to take the gentleman the potion to make sure he got better, and then went to speak with Yaropelk about his quest. We did figure out his father was murdered by someone, and I'm pretty sure that we're just about done with this quest, but there is still a little bit more to go. So, I do have to go and speak with Niden's ex-wife, who is the herbalist. Now, after this, I really don't want to spoil the end of this quest line, so just know basically the rest of the day was spent trying to get this quest dealt with. However, I did go ahead and head home after I finished up what I needed to on this quest. Now, I realize when I get home that I, in fact, didn't buy animal feed like I thought I did. That was a lie that I told myself, and I actually completely spaced buying the animal feed. So I used a little bit of the grain that I purchased to go ahead and make up 10 more animal feed so that I can kind of get through a little bit until I'm able to make some more. I decided to spend day 48 in Clonica. I finished up the quest to take the gentleman the potion to make sure he got better, and then went to speak with Yaropelk about his quest. We did figure out his father was murdered by someone, and I'm pretty sure that we're just about done with this quest, but there is still a little bit more to go. So, I do have to go and speak with Niden's ex-wife, who is the herbalist. Now, after this, I really don't want to spoil the end of this quest line, so just know basically the rest of the day was spent trying to get this quest dealt with. However, I did go ahead and head home after I finished up what I needed to on this quest. Now, I realize when I get home that I, in fact, didn't buy animal feed like I thought I did. That was a lie that I told myself, and I actually completely spaced buying the animal feed. So I used a little bit of the grain that I purchased to go ahead and make up 10 more animal feed so that I can kind of get through a little bit until I'm able to make some more. Now, we're almost halfway through this challenge at this point, and I have realized that I am just absolutely terrible at automation. My firewood consumption has been abysmal compared to what my production has been, so I spent a good portion of the morning making firewood. After making that absolute monumental amount of firewood, however, I did decide to head to Clonica to try to finish up the she-wolf quest. I, however, got ambushed by some bandits, and instead of deciding to run, I decided to stand and fight, and that ends very poorly for me. I am, however, able to get my revenge, and I start my way back to Clonica again, only to get immediately killed by a wolf. So after that death, I decide that I need to just go to sleep. It feels like it's been a very wasted day, but it is just too late for me to head out again. So day 50 and 51, starting off, I saddled up my donkey again and ran to Clonica. I needed to get this quest finished, which I did. Once it actually finished up, it finished the Stay Vigilant quest, which is excellent. It's the first time I've ever achieved that, so I was very happy about that, and the main quest line is progressing. So I headed back to my village afterwards. I was going to actually work on the flax farm because I really needed to make sure that the flax got finished. However, when I got there, I noticed everything was planted. So I went ahead and just made up some fertilizer and began working on some houses. I literally spent the rest of the day working on houses and building new roads. Day 51 was just a whole lot of me making planks and finishing up the houses. I also crafted bags to sell and use in the farm, and I made 3 water skins. So day 52 started out with me gathering up stuff to sell in town, as well as harvesting up my crops, things like that. I did head into Piastovia after gathering that stuff. I bought and sold some stuff. I got 2 bronze scythes. I roasted up the roach and sold that. And then I spoke with Sedowin about the next part in the main quest line, where he asked me to get 3 things for the Castellan. After grabbing those items, 2 of the 3 items, I went ahead and started harvesting my flax to make sure that got done, because I still, as to this day, do not trust my farmers to get it done, even though flax is the most important crop that we have. After that absolute unit of a flax harvest, we got almost 600. It was pretty late, so I went ahead and decided to go to bed and do the rest of Sedowin's quest tomorrow. I figured it would be as easy as the other 2 parts were, which was very easy. So I started off day 53 by winding flax stalks into thread, because I was going to get a ton of thread. This took almost 10 minutes. I have got to get someone to do this for me. Now, after that, I made some fertilizer, I made 25 stone pickaxes, and then I went hunting. I really wanted to hunt a Wycent for the first time. Rave and I had recently talked about how it was actually pretty easy to hunt them, and I was not very good at it, so I decided I would go after some Wycent, and I actually got 2 of them. So day 54. I realized I was really going to need to start focusing hard on both building and questing. I am over halfway done right now, but I don't have the number of villagers I need or the main quest done. So what do I do to start the day? I make bags. I turn a bunch of the linen thread into linen fabric, and then I spend a ton of time making bags. So after I make the bags, I do decide to go start doing the questing, and I travel pretty far to go meet with this gentleman who wants me to get back a quote-unquote pan. Just as I thought, pan was in fact short for bandits. There were a bunch of bandits around where the pan is supposed to be, so I have to fight them off. I'm doing all right, and I'm like backing up, and then all of a sudden a bear just jumps me. Alright, so bandit fight take 2. I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I've got like full health, and then bam. At this point, it's too late for me to try to go out again, so I just make some planks and call it a night. So day 55 started off, and my donkey grew up. Yay! So baby donkey's now an adult donkey, and I realized I don't know what to do with him, so I sold him. After that, I went ahead and headed out for take 3 of shoot bandits with arrows to get back a pan, and finally succeeded. At which point I delivered the pan back to the shady merchant, and then looted the area he was near, and went back to Sedowin. Yep, nothing eventful happened at all on my way back to Sedowin. Nothing at all. So the following quest on day 56 and 57 I don't want to spoil, so I'm not going to go over any of the details of those 2 days other than what I did back at my house. I went ahead and redid my seating area and got my food area upgraded. So as to be expected, A, with me, and B, with my first attempt at 100 days videos, I am making quite a few mistakes on my recording of these, so I am missing footage for day 58 and 59. However, I will give a quick recap of what happened during those days. So I did some quests for my villagers, and then I went off to Piastovia. I did resolve a little bit more of the quests that I'm not going to spoil anything on, and went to do another part of that quest. After that, I did head back to my village. I finished up some quests and made some fertilizer and made roasted meat and made vials because my person who was making potions was not able to make potions. Day 53 or 59, I mean, is even more enticing. I started the day making 25 soups. I then built 3 houses and made fences. As you can see, that is the last thing I did because it continues into day 60. Now on day 60, I spent most of the day still making fences. I wanted to get a fence around every single house that was in my village at the time. I then went ahead and made fertilizer, and I finished up making all of the fences around all of the houses, and I moved and tore my old house down because I was sick and tired of going up and down that little mountain and occasionally tripping and falling on my way down. What kind of a village leader does that? Not this one, let me tell you what. So I moved into a smaller house. Needless to say, that makes your wife unhappy. I learned that a little bit later because I was like, why is my wife unhappy? Why is her happiness going down? That's why I moved into a smaller house. So despite the fact that as a player character you can only have one child, living in the one-child household makes your wife unhappy. I will also make your husband unhappy. That's not a sexist thing. It's just an oversight in the game that I do think that they should look into. So after I got into Spring 1, I realized something. A lot of my places are now not being worked at anymore. The reason for this is what a lot of newer communities that their loving, caring village elder / leader forcing a unmarried man and unmarried woman to live together will run into. The women get pregnant. And after they have their they'll actually work all the way through their pregnancy, like top-notch work thing there. I am a terrible leader. Definitely should have gotten maternity leave well before then. But once they have that baby, they can't work for 2 years. And so it gave me a little bit of an issue, and that continued to be an issue for a hot minute. Like, I was running into a lot of issues. That being said, I knew I needed to hire some more people, so I built another house. I built a second extraction shed, a 4th wood shed, and a 2nd smithy, and then headed into Piastovia. After hiring 3 people in Piastovia, I went to Skauki. In Skauki, I hired another 3 people, took a quest, and ended up buying some chickens as I needed some egg production. After that, I headed to Astoya and hired 1 in there. I did head over to Clonica. They did not have anyone for me, but I also was heading there because I knew that would be the quickest way to get home for the evening, where I slept at home. Now, for the first time this 100 days, I purposefully didn't record a day because it was potentially the most boring day I think I've ever done. Day 62, I literally just filled some troughs. I planted so much flax. I worked on getting my production up, which to do that you have to produce things. So I crafted 78 linen fabric. Holy crap, let me tell you what, that was such a long endeavor. I literally just set it to go and walked away. I did realize that I needed terribly bad to go hunting, so on day 63, that is what I did. Now I'm getting pretty good at hunting. I hunted deer, I hunted boar, I hunted people, I hunted moose, I hunted birds, I hunted so much. But at the end of the day, it was to get all that leather and also the meat, so that I could head home and make bags, because bags are my main money source. Eventually, I'd like to start making other stuff, but so far it's bags. So on day 64, there were 16 issues in the village. Everybody wanted me, and I got just so overwhelmed. So, like a good little farmer turned, main character, I reverted back to my roots and I went and harvested flax instead of dealing with the village's issues. Now trust me when I say that if I could have just done that all day long, I would have been happy. But the village did still have issues, and I still had a job to do. So, like the responsible person I am, I went and crafted 20 shovels. Now, to be fair, the shovels were actually required for some of my villagers to do their jobs. I also made some planks and stuff like that. I was just trying to get some initial resources to get the ball rolling for my guys. Somehow we got behind. I think it's because I was pulling too many resources. I'm not sure though. I did end up moving a farmer over to the barn to try to help with the fertilizer production. And I also worked on a quest to get some torches standing in the village. So yeah, that was basically the day. I did upgrade the woodworking sheds though, and I got the smithies upgraded. So all in all, it was a fairly productive day. I started out day 65 by going out hunting again. I did find a small hunting camp, which was very nice. I was mostly hunting for meat today. However, I did need some leather as well because I wanted to make up some more bags. But yeah, so that's how I started out the day. Now, to try to combat my wife being upset that we moved into the smaller house, I decided to start decorating the house, which I've never done before. But while I'm decorating on screen, I want to talk about a little bit of stuff. So, first off, Rave and I, one of the things that we were supposed to do for this challenge is do decorating around our town. I had been putting in some fences, I put in some tables, and I put a little bit of decorations around my front of my storage area, but that was really the only decorating I had done so far. In the future, when I have a challenge like this, I kind of want to decorate more as I go. Honestly, I want to try to do it almost as if we are like decorating as the houses are built. I don't particularly like doing the rush at the end to get all the decorations in. Honestly, I feel like that was pretty cheap of me. Yeah, we've still got like 40 some days or 30 some days to do it, but I mean, at this point, I'm still decorating and doing like my minimal decorations on day like 75, so it's kind of, I feel, cheap. So next time I do something like this, I do want to decorate as I go instead of just building a ton of buildings and then decorating later. The decorations that I did do, though, I actually am really proud of. Like the seating area, the dining area that I made, I'm really proud of, and it actually inspired a D&D village that I'm creating. I actually had a lot of fun with that. Now, beyond that, I made more bags. Bags have been my main source of income so far, and they're really good, so I continue with that. Now, day 66 started out with me making more bags. I wanted to have lots of stuff to sell when I went into town, so after I finished up making those bags, I did head into Piastovia. I hired 2 new people there, and I worked on selling my bags. Now, after selling the bags, I did end up actually buying all the fish from Punsmere again, and I cooked them up, sold some of it back to him, but I still had more money, or more left over to sell, so I actually headed to Astoya, where I knew I could also sell fish and purchase the fish and everything. So that's where I ended up going. So I headed to Astoya. I actually took a quest there. I bought all the fish, sold some stuff, and I headed home for the night. I honestly thought that was going to be where my night ended, but then I remembered I had this quest, and so I figured I would go and give this gentleman the beer that I promised him. He insisted I drink with him, and I got wasted. I ran into my wife on the way home, and she was like, "Man, my father used to always call people who got drunk like you amateurs." And that just was one of the funniest things that I had ever heard. Like, she is such a funny lady. Now, day 67, 68, and 69 are all going to be together because, again, oops on the recording there. But 67 started by me roasting some fish. I did learn, I think it's actually at this point, that even if the fish is going bad, if you cook it, it will go back up to full health for your food. So you don't need to worry about, like, when you're cooking your fish. Just make sure once it's cooked, you go to sell it immediately. After I did cook up the fish, I did go in to sell it. Now, one of the big things to mention here is I did go fishing again after that, and this time it actually wasn't earned money. Obviously, earning money is great, but I'm trying to get my survival level up, and you get that up by collecting things off the ground and by hunting. Fishing is considered hunting. You get 2 points of experience per animal you kill. So that is what I did. I wanted to get the hunting done. Now, after I got all that fishing done, I did still want to earn money off of it, so I went ahead and got the cooking done, and I had a quest that I could either kill some badgers for their lard, or I could talk to Sedowin and get the medicine. In the past, I've always actually done the badger part of it, so I figured this time I would do the Sedowin part. So after that, I headed to Skauki so that I could finish up the quest for that. After that, I went ahead and started to go home. On the way home, after I got home, I hunted a little bit and then went to bed. Now, for day 68, I wanted to make sure that all the rye was planted because I was planning on planting all of the rye where the old flax area was. Basically, I'm going to rotate flax and rye as I go along. And I realized I hadn't even thrashed the rye from the year before, so I went ahead and did that, got that planted. I also realized that now that I had the second level of smithies, I actually had access to bronze tools. So I ended up going and getting a bunch of tin, crafting tin bars, crafting the tin bars into bronze, and then I crafted 3 bronze pickaxes, 3 bronze scythes, 3 bronze hoes, 3 bronze axes, more pickaxes of 3, and thrice bronze hammers. I put everything away to go and begin mining tin again, and crafted a bunch more tin and copper. Day 69, Rave and I decided to stop dropped food from spoiling so that we can decorate with said food. That being said, I started to decorate my house a little bit more. I also built 2 new houses. I had, the last time I had gone into town, bought a pipe, which is a gift for a man that you can be dating. However, if you know me in real life, the real life Darius, I'm an avid pipe smoker. I smoke tobacco pipes. So that actually would be a super great gift for me. And I decided, hey, that'd be pretty cool to have like a little table set up outside my house with a little chair and the pipe on the table. So that's what I ended up doing there. Day 70 of my 100 days is starting with me going around repairing some of the houses that I have built, because houses and work areas do degrade over time. It takes a little while. Like, this game is a long form game. I'm not gonna lie, so most games you like beat in 100 days, and like you don't even get to the 100 days and you're like just kind of chilling and moving through. This one, you're supposed to be building a dynasty. So my kid by the end of this 100 days is going to be like 4, and I had him almost as soon as I could, or her as soon as I could. So it's pretty crazy like how long this game is. That being said, I have finished the main storyline, so the rest of it is just messing around, having fun, building my village. At this point, I think I'm at like 35, 40 buildings, so I'm needing to really pick up the pace. Another thing that I really want to remedy in my next 100 days video. Now, after I repaired the village, I did decide to go hunting because I am still trying to get my survival skill up. So I got a wisent, some rabbits, a deer. I then had to go back and clear my inventory out because wisents give you so much stuff. And then I came back out, I got 2 moose, 2 more wisents, and so many more deer. I spent the entirety of day 71 cooking. Like, that is all I did. I made 33 pottage, 27 stews, 31 soups. I did make some buckets, so I lied. I didn't spend all day cooking. I crafted a little bit. And I tried to go out hunting, but it was too dark for me to even really do anything. Day 72 started with me heading to Clonica to start a massive hiring spree. I had a bunch of houses that I needed to fill, and I got them filled. I want to say I got 3 from each town other than Astoria, where I think I got 1 person, but I hired at least 1 person from each town. On that day that I hunted all those animals and stuff, I had dropped a bunch of the skulls, and so on my way back from Clonica, because I did a big loop and ended back in Clonica to grab my donkey again, even though technically I can whistle my donkey wherever I am, I found the skulls. That's part of the reason I wanted to run back through, is so I could find those. And so I found those, and my only other goal for today was upgrading my workshop and my barn. Day 73 started with this kid telling me that their mom drinks happy juice and they really want to try mom's happy juice. I tried to scare them off the happy juice by telling them that their mom's gonna die, just like everyone else, but their mom's gonna die. And the kid was like, oh my god, now I'm terrified, and wah. Then I went and talked to the kid again because that didn't finish the quest, and they said I want my mom's happy juice, and I said fine, I'll get you some. But let me tell you what, I may be a monster, but I am not a child abuser, so I am not going to give the kid happy juice. I'm going to give him regular juice, and I'm going to do it right after I get all my farming done. I really like farming, so I go and I start working on the rye. Now let me tell you what, farming can be a little tedious in this game, especially at first. Stone sickles, copper sickles, they are garbage for harvesting this stuff that needs sickles and scythes. Bronze scythes are amazing. Oh my gosh, it is so much fun to just whoosh and whack everything. Now I did decide to teach the kid a lesson in patience, as well as I needed to repair the village, I needed to build a new kitchen and a new house so that I could hire a new kitchen staff member, because our food production person is not keeping up with our food needs, that's for sure. I started off day 74 by crafting some of the poppy into poppy seeds. I didn't really want to have to do this because I hate taking away work from my barn workers, because eventually they get real complaining if they, like, one of their million tasks they have runs out of stuff. So I like to leave stuff for them to do. But I needed to gather things to sell, and one of those things was going to be selling seeds. I have a large excess of seeds at this point, and so I'm going to try to sell a bunch of those. However, I also realized that the seeds are going to be needed for other things as well, so I try to keep a little bit of every seed and a little bit extra. However, I do make a couple mistakes. Namely, I sell all my cabbage seeds. That was a big oops, so I end up really low on cabbage. However, after that, I head to town, and I do finally pick up that kid's cherry juice. I do head over to Ponzi again and buy all of his fish like I normally do. I buy all the pike, go cook it, come back, buy all the perch, go cook it, come back. It's a whole thing I do almost every time I come into town. Now at this point I do head back to my village. I go give the kid their juice, and at some point while I was gone, I realized I had new bridge tech. And something that I'm really upset about is that the first bridge can't actually go across any real bodies of water. So I was really excited to try out the second bridge. Now, the first bridge piece goes in just fine. The second bridge piece, I'm pretty sure, also would go in just fine. I wasn't super excited until I got to the third bridge piece, which was freaking awesome, and I realized I would be able to get all the way across, and spent literally the rest of the day working on my bridge. Now, day 75, I start off messing around with the bridge some more because I am absolutely obsessed with it. So I go and remove a piece and put a new piece in just to see if it destroys more of the bridge. It doesn't. Great. Excellent. Exactly what I wanted. So we got the bridge built. We got it all the way across. We got areas that we can build off of it if I decide to do that in the future. But due to the time constraints that I have, I may not, unfortunately. Now, day 75 starts with me building a new house and then decorating some other houses and some other areas, as well as mine. I find out I can add shutters to houses and kind of go crazy doing that, honestly. Now here's my little pipe area that I was telling you guys about that I built for myself. I did decide to spruce it up a little bit, so it took a little while to do it, but I got a bowl in there, got the pipe in the bowl, got a cup next to me so I can drink a little bit of drinky drink while I'm smoking, and I put a couple things down on the table itself. The other thing that I did that I'm kind of downright proud of is I got these logs all stacked. Again, it was a lot harder than I feel like it should have been. I'm pretty sure that's entirely due to my own incompetence, but it's a neat little log area, so I really like it. Day 76 started off with me fixing up some houses, as well as crafting up 20 shovels since we were running low. I then collected some eggs and manure and collected the flax that had been building up through the spring. Up next, I built my third excavation hut and my second sewing hut. And while I was building that second sewing hut, I actually unlocked level 2 of the sewing hut. So after I got that unlocked, I went ahead and upgraded both of my sewing huts to level 2 and got that taken care of. For the rest of the day, I went ahead and plotted roads and the fence around my hunter's lodge, as well as plotting my new fisher's hut that I had also just unlocked recently. Now, for most of the day, for day 77, I spent the day decorating and kind of building out the hunter's area. I also did build my second fishing area, as well as starting building across the river, which took me a little bit to decide if I really wanted to do or if I wanted to build up on the hill where I had already put a house down. But eventually I do decide I am just going to build across the river, and I'm actually very happy with that decision. Now, obviously, one of the first things that I'm going to build across the river is the storage area over there. I also built a couple houses. I will say, in hindsight, I wish I had planned out this area better. And that's kind of true for almost my entire village. I was doing more planning than what I would say I normally would do, but it still was very willy-nilly placement of buildings for myself. And now that I have gotten this far, I'm thinking, hey, there's way better ways to do this. So in my next 100 days, be it a continuation of this one or a full 100 days video for like the valley or something, I'm definitely going to be making a few changes. So normally I would have done the day 78 recap while I was recording day 76 and 77's audio, because I apparently don't have the footage for it. However, I didn't notice until after I had already done all of that and finalized that day. So, day 78, I built the stable, finally. So I'm going to be able to get horses. I then also built a house, and I went to Piastovia because that's where you get horses. I also bought lavender honey, and I bought my wife a gift because I had noticed that she was getting very upset with me that I wasn't paying attention to her, which is entirely fair. I did sell a couple of the new hats that I started making, and I bought 2 horses, some animal feed, and for the rest of the day I filled buckets and worked on the houses across the river because of the fact that we were completely out of water in the village. I don't understand why my water carrier wasn't doing their job, but they weren't. So for day 79, what I went ahead and started with was fixing buildings. Starting about day 55, 60, I think, my buildings really started to decay a lot, especially the ones that had like thatch roofs. And as such, I think in the future what I might do is ignore thatch roofs and just start doing the plank stuff as soon as I can. Even though it is nice to have the variety, it's a pain in the butt to fix that stuff all the time. So beyond that, though, I collected a bunch of the manure and eggs and all that type of stuff, and I crafted the rot into fertilizer. I then crafted up a bunch of threads and crafted 40 fabrics, and I crafted 8 of those into hats. And then I went over to the hunting lodge and upgraded that. So day 80 had literally no good footage to be able to use. Not that, watching me build is very much better footage, but day 80 was literally just me running from point A to point B to point C to point D on my horse, as well as crafting foods. So I crafted a bunch of fish. I cooked up fish. So much fish. I then went to the villages to recruit again. I started in Clonica, where I hired 3 people. I went to Skauki, then, where I hired 1. I then went to Astoya, where I hired 3. And I went to Piastovia, where I hired 2. When I stopped in Piastovia and Astoya, I did also purchase their fish, cook them up, and sell them back. That's literally all I did on day 80. Now, day 81 is a little bit better, I feel like, mostly because I was actually doing things. Now, as you'd already seen, I worked on putting in gateways around the town to kind of give it more entrances and such like that. I did really enjoy doing that. I also went ahead and cleared a bunch of trees away. I went to plant the rye, however the rye had already mostly been planted. So I took time to thrash some flax and craft some more hats to be able to sell. Now, from this point on, basically you can assume that at the beginning of every season I repair houses, or at least at some point in the season I'm going to repair the houses. So I'm going to stop mentioning that. So beyond that, I didn't do too much on day 82. I really just, I made axes because we were running out of axes. I mined a bunch of ore because my miners were not working, were not collecting enough ore for the smelting processes. This is all stuff that I'm kind of hoping to be able to get used to and get better at as I go on. However, it's not going to be during this 100 days because I'm almost out of time. And I filled more buckets of water because for some reason my water carrier just is the worst. Beyond that, I made a bunch of animal feed and I mined up more ore and thrashed up more flax because, again, my people weren't really keeping up with stuff, so I figured, I don't have much else to do, so I may as well help out. Now, on day 83, I got real sick and tired of having to help out my water carrier, so I figured I would hire them help by building another well and hiring some people to do the water carrying there. So I figured across the river's probably the best place to build that, so I headed on over there. Now, after crafting up the well, I figured that this newer area looks nicer, so I figured I should probably move into the new area, despite the fact that I spent a long time decorating my new house, or my house, to try and make my wife happy. But I figured, you know what? Let's just make a really big house so she'll be happy, and we can restart and decorate that. Now, my placement for my new house, I wasn't wanting it like right up against the road, and I wasn't wanting it to be like the first thing you see when you enter the village, because like you don't generally see the mayor's house right when you enter the village. And my spatial awareness was like, nah, you're gonna be the focal point of the village entry. Now, after finishing up my house, I decided I would go ahead and go out hunting for the rest of the day, as I don't even think I have my hunters bringing in meat at this point anymore because they're so bad at it. I just have them bringing in leather. So I went out and started hunting. I started with boar, I moved on to deer, and then moved on to wisent because, gotta move up. Now, day 84 was literally one thing on my mind. I wanted this new big house to be beautiful and decorated like my small house, and I wanted to move in. So I worked on that all day. I wanted fancier fences for this house because it was going to be my house, and this is also going to be the quote-unquote richer side of town. So I started off with a fancy log fence and went from there. After getting the log fence done, I worked on the interior, getting the bed upgraded, getting the carpets down, all that type of stuff, so that it would look beautiful inside. And I just kind of worked throughout the day, and then I had my wife and my child move in. Day 85 started off with me doing my favorite thing, which is scything up some rye/flax. Flax being also one of my favorite things, rye being what I was actually scything up. Got all the rye harvested, worked on getting the flax planted, got all that done. It did take a while, but it was definitely worth it because, oh my gosh, I love using the scythes. After getting all of that done, I did head into Piastovia. I needed to sell some stuff as well as talk to Setowin. I took a couple of quests from a couple of my villagers, and one of the villagers had a rash and wanted me to talk to Setowin about said rash, so I went and did that for her. And then after that, I just went around to the different settlements to try to recruit some more people. I got a few more recruits and ended the day. So day 86 started with me in Astoria. I didn't actually go home to sleep because I wanted to be able to sell the fish and such that I was purchasing from everywhere. And by the time I had gotten to Astoria, it was too late for me to sell anything. So I went ahead and stayed the night there. Unfortunately, everyone decided to sleep in for some reason. It was so bad I actually reloaded the game, and they still slept in. Finally, after several in-game hours, I was able to go around and start selling stuff to people, but even when people started waking up, like two of the vendors are married to each other, and they were still asleep. Eventually, I gave up. I just went back to Piastovia, got more fish and cooked it up, and then I traveled to Clonica to sell everything, and then I headed home. I went ahead and got my villager quests finished up so that I wouldn't forget about those, and then after that, I just took time to make some fertilizer and finished out day 86. So day 87 started off with me helping out the villagers, planting more stuff in the farms as they had run out of fertilizer, and with it being the last day of spring, I needed to make sure everything got planted. I then went hunting. I started again with boar and moved on to the Wysant. It wasn't until after I tried putting the leather away into the storage that I realized I was completely full on storage, which was probably why I was seeming to have a lot of issues running out of stuff, because nothing was being able to go where it should be. I spent the rest of the evening turning a bunch of the logs that I had into firewood to prepare for the coming, not obviously summer, but the coming winter and autumn that we will be having after summer. Day 88 started with me working on the new storage shed because we definitely need that space. The next thing I worked on was getting some mining done so that I could craft up a bunch of pickaxes and scythes so that I could do more harvesting. Then on to my absolute favorite part of the entire game probably, which is using a scythe on various grains. Now after that I did take a quest to get the lighting updated in the village they only wanted me to put one torch in, but I decided to just work on the lighting throughout the whole village. I really wanted lamppost type lighting, however, I decided I probably wasn't going to make it there before my 100 days were out, so I just used the little torches. Day 89, I mostly just spent it decorating my house some more, as well as crafting up new hats to sell and traveling to the different villages to sell things. I started in Clonica, went to Piastovia, went to Skauki. I never ended up actually making it to Astoya, as I ran out of stuff. However, in Skauki I did finish up the Ogre in My Privy quest that I had taken a while back. Now, day 90, I started off by actually going up on top of the hill and just looking at my village so far. I very much love how, especially this main area, is looking. Like, it's just very, very nice and very village-like. Normally, when I design and build things, they tend to either look way too crowded or way too sparse, usually the latter. And this just looks like an organic village, and I'm really proud of it. Despite the fact that I know a few days ago I said there would be a lot of changes that I would make, which is still true, but this is just something that I am proud of. Now, as you know, I did have a village size goal, which was 70 buildings, which is the normal maximum amount of buildings for the village. Currently, on day 90, I am at 56 of that 70, so I actually am doing fairly well. I would have preferred to get closer to the mark like sooner, but honestly it would have probably been about roughly a year sooner, which is about how long it took me to get to my village spot. So I'm not super upset about the fact that it's not fully filled yet. That being said, I have quite a few buildings that I went ahead and built to get to that to get to the number. Obviously, as you can see right now, I'm building another fishing hut. I built, I want to say, 2 more fishing huts on this side of the river. I built a food storage, an extraction, another pigsty, and a kitchen. And at the end of the day, I moved the pigs to the new pigsty. I will say one of the main issues I have with my current village setup is I built the second pigsty on the island part. I would absolutely change that in my second 100 days. I would keep the pigsties together. Now for day 91, I forgot to hit record again, but really honestly, it was another one of those super boring days where I literally just built 3 more houses and made pickaxes. That's all I did all day long. Day 92 consisted of me building up a new barn, thrashing a bunch of flax, fertilizing some fields, and then I proceeded to make a bunch of stone axes. In the middle of making those stone axes, apparently I starved to death, which, oops. So then I made the rest of the axes in my house because I was still overweighted. After that, I went ahead and finished off the day by crafting a bunch of fertilizer. Day 93 started off with me hunting again as I was running low on meat. I then collected up fertilizer and eggs from my chicken coops and various animal pens. I then crafted a new animal pen called a fold so I can get some sheep for the wool, and I ended off the day by making animal feed. I spent day 94 building the final 3 houses that I needed to reach my goal, so I finally have the 70 buildings. I started off day 95, not day 15, day 95 making 15 hats before heading to Astoya to get the sheep and to get some new villagers. When I finally did get to Astoya, however, unfortunately, like an idiot, I had put my coins away, so I had to actually sell the hats before I could buy the sheep. It wasn't too much of an inconvenience, but it did slightly inconvenience me. Beyond that, however, I just spent the rest of the day traveling around selling my hats and getting prepped for day 96. Day 96 started with me crafting some shears and then going to shear my sheep the one time I ever sheared them this game. I then started to do some more fence placements, and I crafted up a bunch of stews. I don't have footage for day 97, unfortunately. However, I spent the entire day building fences, and eventually I did unlock the mine. So I did really want the mine in my village. So I figured there was a house that I had built on top of that hill, so I would tear that down and build the mine instead. Day 98 is when I officially did tear down that house. I moved the family in it. It was an actual connected family, so I had to put them in an empty house. However, at that point, I went over and started building the mine, and I assigned basically all of my people from my excavation sheds over into the mine. I crafted buckets, crafted bronze axes, and spent the day making animal feed after that. I spent almost all of day 99 just decorating the village. I did do a couple other things, like I finished planting the flax, even though honestly at this point it doesn't really matter unless I decide to continue this 100 days to a 200 days thing, which I might do, but I haven't decided yet. However, I did spend basically all day just decorating the village. I got as much done as I could, and I'm going to be spending day 100 doing that as well. Basically, honestly, that we'll just go into that. Day 100 I spent decorating the village. I built a bunch of small fences around the kind of bottom pathways, and just kind of finished up everything I could do. I decided to plant a tree in my front yard, and I decided to lay stones around it. That takes so long, but in the end it looked really good. And just like that, we've reached the end of day 100. I wanted to go ahead and give a good little aerial shot of the village, so here it is, and enjoy. I'm extremely proud of how this village has turned out, despite the fact that I have said a few times in the video that yeah, there's things I'd do differently. Of course there is. Hindsight's 2020, and this is the first time I've undertaken something this extreme. Now, on top of that, however, this is also the most extensive video I've ever created. I will say, like, I've made videos that are, hours long before, but this video took about, I would say, a little over probably 60 hours just to record the footage, and then longer to even edit it. It's been the most extensive video I've ever done, and I have so much respect for people who are able to do these on a monthly basis. I'm going to be trying to put out more of them myself. It's been a blast to make. It's been a chore, but it's been a blast to make. I do want to thank all of my subscribers that I currently have and that I'll gain, in the future. And as you guys know, I made this channel originally just to have fun. I am trying to monetize it now, but I still am trying to have a blast with this channel. And so I just wanted to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for watching my first 100 days video. And as always, until next time, keep on surviving.